Welcome to the Outer Realm with Michelle, Desrochers, and Amelia Pisano. Airing live on the United Public Radio Network, 105.3 FM in New Orleans.
Good evening, everyone. Welcome to the Wednesday night segment of The Outer Realm. We're broadcasting live on the United Public Radio Network, UFO Paranormal Radio Network 105.3, 107.7 FM from the beautiful city of New Orleans. We are fully sponsored by the amazing people over at Folgers Coffee who have been a part of our journey since the beginning. So thank you, Folgers. We appreciate you so very much. And frankly, the journey would not be the same without you. Also, a big thank you to Justin Snicker, aka Dr. Snick, the Sonic Surgeon, for his contribution of his time, his music, and his voice for the intro that you just heard. He's an award-winning composer of Halloween, horror, sci-fi, and dark wave electronic music, and it can be found on all of your favorite music platforms. So thank you, thank you. Also, big thank you to Steve McGinnis, the artist behind our banners and logos. We appreciate him so very much. Gives us that look, you know. Anyway, check him out on Facebook and Instagram. He also specializes in the horror genre, but does phenomenal commission pieces. He can do pretty much anything. So tonight, we're going to be talking about, the apocalypse, Armageddon, prophecies, end times, all that fun stuff. And what prompted me to do that brainiac thing was actually Bubbles, who's been seeing. I'm
that
seeing the four horsemen.
Like, sound right.
We got to talk about this. So hey Wayne.
Yeah.
So we figured, you know what? I think. Hello, Dolly. Put that song. Hello, Ron.
Ron, you made it.
You're staying up. Wow.
Yeah. He asked, "What time is it on in my time?" I go 2 a.m. thinking, no, Ron. Unless you're like dying to participate in the chat room, we are archived because I feel so much love from you when you show up every week. Honestly, I'm sure Michelle does too.
Absolutely.
Wow.
It's not the same without everybody. We love our chat room. We love, just interacting with everybody.
Sorry,
I know a lot of our hosts, here on the network really love interacting with our listeners who take the time to come out and interact with us. And we appreciate your opinions. And we know sometimes it gets a bit funky in the chat room. We see some of the comments, but we can't post everything. So also remember, guys, we have like 7 different chat rooms because Roku, we are live on Roku, but there's no chat room there. But again, it's like 7 chat rooms coming into like one. So try to bear with us.
Well, you can watch on Roku and then just hi, Nathaniel. You can watch on Roku and like just put your volume off on your phone and chat from there.
Oh, absolutely.
I'm sure it's not that much of a lag.
No, I can't see that.
No, I would think Facebook has a longer lag than Roku.
I would think so.
Yeah, more power.
Realistically, we have a lot of chat rooms and we're very fortunate for it because it allows people to go out on all kinds of different platforms. We don't necessarily know who is where because we have 3 YouTube channels and there are 4 Facebooks coming through. So it's like, okay, yeah, we don't necessarily know, but we thought it would be a lot of fun to tackle this and get into some specifics as to what's coming on or why, So Bubbles, before we start getting into all the literature, hey Sandra, let's talk about your dream about the 4 horsemen that led up to this topic.
And it's not the first time. It's just that was the first time that I told you, and it keeps happening, and I keep having flashes, and it's exactly as. And the funny thing is, if you look at my research, I have never known, like I've known this much about the four horsemen, but all of that information came in dreams. And
Right.
I didn't know much except for what I learned in Catholic school. The
Oh,
end of days, the
wow.
apocalypse is coming. So when I was telling you about it, I'm sitting there going, but this was happening and that was happening, and this horse meant this and that horse meant that. And I'm like, I had no clue until today when I went to
Wow.
look at it. Because when you
That's
asked me, what did you
spooky
see? And I
though,
said
isn't it?
famine and you know,
Yeah.
like there was killings and depopulation. Like I didn't know if it was because I was watching so much about everything that's happened, you know, post the big C word.
Yeah, yeah.
And I remember saying that to you, and I'm like, what the hell is going on? And then I'm looking at this going, Holy Mother of all things holy, seriously.
Yeah.
There's one thing in common that I found with prophecies, the apocalypse, the end of days in history. It
Mhm.
continuously repeats itself, which I'm sure all of you know. I didn't know, but often I think we'll come to this agreement throughout the show more than once that a lot of it's power and gain. But
Mhm.
the whole thing was the death and the fear and you know the starvation. And I'm like,
Mhm.
I just like eat pizza too late, or like what is going on here?
Right, right, right.
Have all of this information
Mm.
to have that and not really know. Like I've never really dug into it. That's
Mhm.
not my thing, right?
Well,
It's not
Joe
my
and I
thing.
did a
I
whole
only
show.
know.
We did 2 shows on this. There was so
Yeah,
much
I must have
information.
missed them. But
Yeah.
you know,
Yeah.
I look at this and think I only knew this as a Roman Catholic in school.
Right.
I didn't know it the way I learned it through my own dreams, and then
Mhm.
today with going
Right.
through some more and saying, "Holy crap,
Right.
Michelle,
I know. Help.
help!"
Help. I can hear Wayne now. Well, you know what? There's also differences. Like people, I think for as long as humanity's existed, there's always been that fear about end days or
Yes,
apocalyptic times. I mean, through the ages. And mankind seems to have been really, I still obsessed with the end of the world and how is it going to come to pass? And I mean, right into 2000, Y2K, we're going down, it's happening, you know, and people have always been fascinated with going to seers and prophets and what do you see? Like what's your vision for the future, my future? What's happening? You know, what about
that's
the end times? And what about things like the differences between Armageddon and Apocalypse? So I just struck up a few notes. Just we'll start there, and then we can get into the different cultures, which I think would be good here.
oh my gosh.
So
Yes,
Armageddon versus the apocalypse. What are the differences between the two? Well, they are both used to make reference to the end of the world as we know it. Armageddon, specifically, however, is the location where the final battle for mankind is alleged to be fought. The apocalypse is, in fact, the reading of the events that lead to the end of the world. So they are believed to be 2 apocalypses: religious, which we apparently have very little control over, and secular, which we may possibly have some control over. So there's only one mention of Armageddon in the Bible, which is Revelation 16:16. The verse is, and he gathered them together into a place called the Hebrew tongue Armageddon. So where does the word Armageddon actually derive from? Well, it comes from the Hebrew word har, meaning mountain, and Megiddo, also, or Megiddon, which was the name of a city. The city belonged to the Canaanites until it was captured by Joshua and then was turned over to the Manassites. Did I say that right? Today it lies in ruins, but it is said to be the battle at Armageddon where Christ and his saints will take the Antichrist and an army of 200 million men at the point of the a period of 1,000 years of peace will begin. So I don't know. Will it? Will it? I had to break it up because a lot of people don't realize there is a difference between the two. So if we're going to talk end times, Armageddon, apocalypse. Those are the differences. So your four horsemen falls into, I think that falls into the whatchamacallit, religious part of
Oh, I
things.
thought you wanted me to actually read your mind. Her
Yes.
light, yeah,
Oh,
Wayne, her
okay.
light went dark because she was reading her screen.
I know.
Yeah,
That's true. I was reading the
it
screen.
happens when
Sorry.
I do the promo too, because the
Yeah.
brightness from your screen goes.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah, it does.
But thank you. He catches everything. I love it.
Doesn't he?
We know you're watching.
So, so Ron says, okay, you want to get that?
Sure. In paranormal TV series like Ghost Adventures, it states that this program is for entertainment purposes only. Does it mean it's all fake?
No. No, it doesn't, but it doesn't mean
Illegal.
it's not. It's that
No.
partially fake. You have to understand, people go and film, because I have filmed, and I can assure you, mind you, I don't do investigative filming. I deal with, people who I've worked with. Not that I've never done them, but you can spend hours and hours and hours
Days.
at a location, and they have to take all and of anything and narrow it down into not even an hour, because you've got commercials in there.
Yeah.
But it is also a liability thing. Wayne says that right. It is a
legal.
liability thing, but again, you can't guarantee there's going to be something that happens. There are even psychic mediums who put on their website for entertainment purposes only, because people take things so literally.
Well, they don't
can't.
want to be sued for giving, because some mediums, and if you're out there listening, please take my words with caution and love and total respect, give medical analysis that they shouldn't. You have to be careful how you say it, and that's where the disclaimer comes from. I'm not a doctor, I'm not a real estate agent, I'm not a lawyer. I'm just giving you what I see, and that's what they're doing, is giving you their vision and their message, but they can't be held responsible. That's another thing. You will see that even with stunts in films. Please do not do this at home. It was performed by a professional.
Exactly.
It's the same kind of genre, the same kind of crap, honestly.
Yes.
Yeah, but it's a great question. I'm glad that you asked that.
So, there's a lot of things right now. I think religion has a lot to do with instilling that sort of fear. And let's face it, people predict the end of the world all the time. I mean, we'll go through some of the prophecies and predictions,
and we have one coming up as well, but we'll talk about that later into the show. Michelle knows what I'm talking about.
Okay.
But there's one that's like this year. And did you notice when you do your the research for all of this, that nowhere does it say climate change? Just saying.
It's funny.
I'm just saying, don't pull us, YouTube. Just saying.
I know.
I have over 60 pages.
It's true.
Nowhere does it say climate change.
You know how many times the world was said to end? Many times throughout centuries.
I can think of 3 in our lifetime. 3.
Oh gosh.
In our lifetime.
This has been going on since like the dawn of time. As we know it anyway. Oh
my gosh, yes. The earliest one I have, I think it was the 1700s. And then there's times even before that. I mean, look at the Pope with the Crusaders.
Oh, you do?
All to gain land.
It goes back to January 1st, 1000, Pope Sylvester the second, along with other religious figures, chose this apocalypse date. They chose it, and it came and went. So they decided that it would have to be another 1,000 years after the death of Christ to 1033, while we're all still here. And then Pope Innocent III declared Muslims to be servants of Satan, therefore predicted the world would end 666 after the actual founding of Islam. Like, come on. Hence 1284. He died 50 years after the date.
Yes.
So then it goes back to 1523, and the prophecy of Pope Malachi was interesting. In the extreme persecution of the Holy Roman Church, there will sit Peter the Roman, who will nourish the sheep in many tribulations. When they are finished, the city of 7 hills will be destroyed, and the dreadful judge will judge his people. The end. Well, come on again. And I'm just pecking off a few of them here.
A,
You know?
a lot of them, when it comes down to, well, your prophecy was wrong, what do you have to say for it? They will say the math was off,
That's
but
true.
it's still coming. They never take accountability for being wrong.
No, it's true.
There's one Charles Hindley who had a book about prophecies and included the invention of telegraph and steam engine, and they were added in the prophecy part was added in to sell books. It wasn't even real, but
Right.
it did sell a lot of books.
I guess
And then
so.
brought on an article in Harper's Magazine later. Like, it's just unbelievable. And remember, Harper's Magazine goes back to the late 1800s. People will think it's something of our day, but it goes way back. And if you go into their archives, you'll find all kinds of prophecies written there. And do you ever think that if it's not, I always feel, I'm trying to word this so I don't get in trouble. I feel like when it comes to, and don't get upset with me, people, when it comes to religion, I'm Roman Catholic. I find that a lot of it is fear driven. There's not a lot of accuracy to any of that. Scientists have their own way of measuring things. But when it comes to end of days, the most fearful and the most profited, and I mean profited, not prophesize, is Hollywood with the end of days. There is actually a film called The End of Days. You know,
right.
There's so many of them. Independence Day. There's so many. And what do they lead back to? But the little green guy behind Michelle.
Which brings me to these comments. This one here. And
Holocaust
dreams. And then Wayne's comment.
Oh, let me move
Can
that
you
up.
see it, or do you want me to get it? Can you see it?
Go ahead.
I have had quite a few Holocaust dreams throughout my life. It tends to happen in another landscape than I'm used to seeing. Very arid, not a blue sky. Well, I mean, you've heard Joe come on and talk about many times that contactees, or some people will call them abductees, have this in common: apocalyptic or Holocaust type dreams. Why is that?
No.
Dolly, feel free to chime in and chat on that one. But it's interesting because did they come from someplace else? Is it a memory as opposed to, of apocalyptic times in another place? Are they traveling? Is this where they come from? Their soul comes from? Is this something that's maybe they're visiting with their specifically whatever extraterrestrial or terrestrial race may be taking them? It's interesting because this seems to be something that quite a few contactees and experiencers, abductees, whatever the case may be, are all saying. So it goes back to what Amelia says. It really could be like something within us somewhere that's embedded. She says, yeah, I'm not dreaming it. I know what is coming. We're in the beginning of it now. And you know what's funny about that, Dolly, is Wayne has a friend, and we met his wife, who has these hardcore apocalyptic dreams, but she swears that she's awake. They are visions, and that this is something that's coming.
So it's happening while she's basically standing, not while she's sleeping. I know about Dolly says, hi, Tara. Dolly says, our planet is changing poles. Our grid will go down. We actually have the big red giant prophecy in 7.6 billion years, though, from now. So none of us are going to be here to say that it wasn't true. And no matter what happens with that, where they say the sun expands and expands and expands, and then basically it's nothing. And then that pull.
Hey, Chris.
It moves the Earth's pull. That's a scientific prophecy that none of us can prove. So I don't put myself through the stress of trying to figure these ones out. I'm not going to lie. 7.6 billion years from now, good luck with that.
Yeah. Anything, you know what? Anything's possible. Like, I'm looking at the things that Dolly is saying, and I mean, there's a lot of people who have done prophecies and predictions. I have to go to Baba Vanga for a second
Yeah.
because she is one of my favorites. And okay, let me
She's
just
mentioned
see.
in this book as well.
Yeah. She was born in Strumica, Yugoslavia, and January 31st, 1911, was recognized for her prophecy. She was known as a true phenomenon of our time until her death on November the 11th, 1996. She had a good life. She predicted the world would end in 5079 AD. So that's a long time from now. Here are her predictions. However, there are more that lead the way all the way up to 5079, but we, just some notable ones. 2016, and I don't think this happened, but maybe there was a bit of an exodus, but Muslim people will take over Europe. That will stop to exist as we know it. The campaign of destruction will last for many years. It will drive out populations and leave the entire continent almost empty. Well, we know that didn't happen. 2018, what is now the new China will become the world power, and the developing countries in turn be operated by exploiters. 2023. So
Mhm.
here we go,
This
Dolly. The orbit of the Earth will change, even though no one knows what this means. 2025, Europe will still be settled. 2028, the creation of a new energy source, likely a controlled thermonuclear reaction. Great levels of the ocean and hunger gradually are overcome. 2033, higher levels of the ocean as polar ice melts. 2043, because I'm specifically naming these because these are potentially like in our lifetime. Completion of Europe's transformation into the Islamic caliphate. The economy of the world thrives under the Muslim rule, and Rome is named the capital. 2046, any bodies or organs can be cloned or manufactured. Replacements of organs is becoming one of the best treatment methods. 2066, the United States uses climate as a new kind of weapon, the sharp cooling or instant freezing
I think they're off
during
a few years.
during the attack of the Muslim Rome. Yeah. 2076, communism, the classless society. 2084, restoring nature. 2088, a new disease emerges, just aging in a few seconds. 2097, the defeat of the rapid aging disease. Like it goes on and on and on. And she takes us. There are things that go literally all the way to the 4600, and
Yeah.
that's just one person. And I liked it because of the fact, again, that it potentially in our time. You
Mhm.
know,
And Preston joined us as well.
Preston, lots of near death experiences, also getting these kind of messages.
Do you
Wow,
think
see, I did
that's
not know
why
that.
I didn't either? Do you think that's why I had those dreams? I'm wondering because I did
Mm.
never been abducted. I
Yeah,
do. Can I tell it? Can I tell a
I
story
have a
that?
fur ball. Hold on. Yes, you freaking have. Stop it.
Can I tell a story about how
Oh,
that
tell it.
actually fits in with this? I found this today, and this is the year my daughter was born, which was 1997, and it was a cult called Heaven's Gate. Do
I
you
remember
remember
it.
this?
I remember
Okay,
it.
so Marshall Applewhite, with his piercing wide-eye stare, looks like a man who was destined to lead a doomsday sect. He was a leader of Heaven's Gate, a cult founded in Texas during the early 1970s.
I
The
remember
group
that.
soon moved to American Southwest, where Applewhite began to preach about a spaceship that would spare true believers from the apocalypse and take them to the heavenly level above human.
Mhm.
After 2 decades proselytizing, I cannot speak, in the desert, Heaven's Gate moved to California. Funny that, where they started a web consulting business. I'm wondering if that's anywhere near Silicon.
No.
Web consulting business called Higher Source to fund their activities, where they lived in a sprawling Spanish style house and reportedly watched episodes of X Files and Star Trek
Oh my
religiously.
gosh.
This gets better. Wait for this connection. Heaven's Gate took a grim turn in 1997, the year that comet Halley Bopp shined brightly in the night sky. It all started November 14th, 1996, when Applewhite and his followers were listening to Art Bell's Coast to Coast, a radio show we all know. dedicated to UFO topics. During the program, an amateur astronomer called in and claimed to have photographed a mysterious object hiding in Hale-Bopp's tail. This was all the evidence Applewhite needed to confirm his spaceship prophecy from the 1970s. He and his group soon began preparations to board the UFO. But listen to this. Through the execution of mass suicide, when police entered the California compound on March 26, 1997, they found 39 bodies dressed in black tunics with a cloth draped over their heads. They had killed themselves with a cocktail of barbiturates and smothering plastic bags because that was the only way they could get on board. Sad.
But it is sad, and there's a lot of that.
There is a lot of that.
And I don't think E.T. would ever want something like that. And
No.
what Preston says here, they give you good warnings, and they try to instill good messages. You know, they warn people about this sort of thing all the time. It's a major message. No coincidence that lots of contactees save food, water, and moving off grid.
Yep.
See, so I believe that because I mean they've had, I mean, over the last few years, you know, probably 3 anyway. For me, I mean, they give you lots of downloads. They give you lots of messages. They lead you down certain directions. But I think sometimes some of us are just really thick and like, what? So
excuse me.
Like what?
Man, I felt that slap my face.
Right? She goes, your body is in the 3rd dimension. ET would not be able to take them bodiless.
See, isn't that strange? So I have to wonder if he was just so messed up and believed that he was, you know, this prophet and he had to do this, or if he just, like other prophets, air quotes, that we've seen before, like Jones and the Kool-Aid. I wonder if it's just a matter of control. And what people should know, if you're listening and this is something that you've delved into or you're noticing around your group and your community and you're kind of interested, remember this coming from me as someone who worked in crime. And this is historical fact, every time there's a cult, 90% of the time the leader walks away from it and everyone else dies.
Yeah.
Don't forget that. And if you need proof, walk back to the Holocaust if you need to look somewhere that's more historical.
I agree. I think people have to not take some of the stuff so literal.
Yeah.
Like, you know, when we go back to Baba Vanga, she said something, again, a change in the Earth's orbit. But she did make mention of something in 2221. During our search for extraterrestrials, okay, Darling Preston, get ready. So this woman was revered, remember. So this is something, again, are we talking good, bad? I don't know. But during our search for extraterrestrials, man will come into contact with something truly terrible. However, she doesn't give any further information. So I don't know.
Why? Did she not get the information, or did somebody exclude it from having it out there?
This stuff gets, you know, how much of this stuff gets tweaked and tweaked? Nostradamus, his stuff was just misinterpreted and messed around so much. How many of these predictions happen because maybe somebody out there with a lot of power says, yeah, let's make this happen. Let's create this situation. Right. See, I agree. That's what I was saying.
Misquoted. Nostradamus was heavily misquoted.
Oh no, she meant this. Yeah. This is what you mean? Yeah. So I don't know, but I think that I think people take things really literal, and we have to be really careful with that. The powers that be can most definitely create anything they want based on the writings. Some people say, oh, you know, this book, for example, this is for real. No, it's not necessarily for real, but maybe people just bring things to fruition.
Yeah. Because there are some scientists and people who have you know, a huge faith that believe that there are all kinds of codes in the Bible. And I'm like, well, how do you determine
I
that
know.
if most of the Bible's missing and it's had all this Mandela effect on
Well,
it?
look, I mean, look
How?
at, there's so much in the Bible. Look at Micah Danks has been on the show so many times
Yes.
talking about just astrology in the Bible and how things were just, people don't see it, but boy, when he points it out, you're like, face palm, yes. How
Yes.
much of that is actually in there through codes? Yeah, I believe a lot of texts have codes in them. But I also think you have to look at the sign of the times.
You have to look at the
Even when the
vernacular.
book of
Yeah.
Revelations was written, think about where he was when he wrote all of that, sitting in a cave, looking at the emperors of Rome, looking at everything going on at that time. Was it written for that time? And are we just taking it literally? It
Well,
kind of goes back to what Ron was saying about, entertainment purposes only. Not that it's entertainment, but covering, you're covering what's being said, covering your rear end sort of thing. Like, a lot of this was taken very literal by people to this day.
But also, I think this fits in as well. People have said to me, "Well, why isn't anybody like a prophet now?" Well,
Right.
we have a lot of distractions in our lives, and you have to remember that these prophets from those times
Yeah.
had nothing but thought,
Yeah.
faith, and their daily chores. Like, give me, think
Mhm.
about it. Nostradamus was living in a palace. He worked for Catherine de Medici. Like, let's just
Mm.
take a moment here.
Well,
Baba Vanga is more modern in our times, meaning we can understand it because it's just a translation that's easily checked from, Slavic to English.
Right.
But Nostradamus, I mean, I'm sure that many kings, like King Henry VIII, those times were misquoted as well because of what they named something. Again, vernacular, this part, we still have that now.
Right.
So
Right.
everything with a grain of salt. Do not. Oh
But
my gosh! Do your
there's
research.
there have
Yeah.
been so many predictions, even in modern times. Like, I mean, we've got one here that says, many people believe, again, this is, I think, the religious part of things, that the beginning of end days will occur 70 years after the Jews returned to Israel. Technically speaking, the UN saw the reestablishment of Israel in 1947. So 70 years later would have been 2017, unless we're missing some details. Sir Isaac Newton also made an end times prediction and claimed that doomsday would fall in 2060, but never said an exact date. He also claimed that human interpretation of the Bible could indeed be flawed. Some theorists believe that the CERN and the large, Hadron Collider could bring about an
that's
apocalypse and end days. Right,
Mhm.
that's now.
That's
The end of-
now.
The end of times have been predicted many times. I mean, this goes on and on and on and on.
That
I mean,
that
what-
LHC is a black hole. People are fighting so that they don't
Oh.
continue digging. They were supposed to stop that. They had stopped it. Another one. Here's one that went too far. Black skies over New England in 1780. It was a
Right.
forest fire,
right.
but they were all running, and because they saw the animals were, birds were flying away, and horses wouldn't go into the forest, and they just believed it was doom and gloom. And instead, after they found out it was a forest fire, and that's
Right.
why the skies were black
Right.
in the middle of the day. But things like that, misinterpretation. Yes.
Well, Preston here, remember the Hopi prophecies. These are big
Yes.
ones because these are, people really pay attention to these. They talk about this sort of thing. Lots of Native American elders have given information about this. Rolling thunder is one.
Yes.
Apache Scout Stalking Wolf gave prophecies in the books by Tom Brown, who was taught by him, said, when the skies turn red for 7 days, the end times have begun. Absolutely. Thank you for those, Preston. And Dolly also, going back to codes. All language is a type of code. All of our rhetoric and syntaxes carry multiple layers of meanings. We naturally do code. Computer is code.
Yes. And the big,
100%.
speaking of computer, the reason why Y2K was such a big deal that they were trying to attach it to a calendar, what they didn't realize till after, when nothing did happen and nobody's, no, the world didn't end, there wasn't
Right.
a super bug. They
Right.
realized that it was just the programmers had only put in 2 digits because they thought that by the time they would need 3 digits, that their coding would have been obsolete at that time. They
Right.
didn't think that programming would still be there. So all over something so simple,
Yeah.
it made the world panic. So
Yes.
that one's, and that's in our time again, with
But
the
I mean,
LHC.
also in our time, I mean, let's just show you how you're talking about mindset and propaganda and fear. What about the doomsday clock? Yes, we
Oh
have
my
a
God,
doomsday
yes.
clock, people. It is recognized as a symbol to which represents the likelihood of a man-made global catastrophe. It's been maintained since 1947 by the members of the Bulletin of the Atomic Scientists, which can be traced back to Chicago. The clock's original setting in 1947 was 7 minutes to midnight. It has been set backward and forward 24 times since, the largest ever number of minutes to midnight being 17 in 1991, when the smallest being 100 seconds in 2020 and 2021. The clock was moved to 2.5 minutes in 2017, then forward 2 minutes to midnight in January 2018, and left unchanged in 2019. And in January 2020, it was
Oh,
moved
no.
forward 100 seconds before midnight. In January 2021, the clock setting was left unchanged. So since 2010, the clock has been moved forward over 4 minutes and has changed by 6 minutes and 20 seconds since 1947.
That's only
So,
what no.
so since the clock has been moved backwards 8 times and forwards 16 times.
That we know. So we really don't know what time it is.
We really don't. You know what I mean? Like,
I'm sorry, I'm laughing at
I
this
know.
because I remember you doing this one, and I was just
It's just like, yeah, it's just, exactly. That's what she said. The clock is really close to midnight, right?
yeah, thanks.
So I don't know. Like, is this again? It's some of that. It's that propaganda. It's things that, and I only say propaganda because there are people who profit on fear for sure. I think if somebody really, and I mean, I only say this because I trust beings that I've been in contact with. And they're people, like Dolly and Preston and many others who may or may not acknowledge that they've had contact. Saying, Amelia. But anyhow, so,
I don't have any that I remember.
but I'm just saying that maybe we need to listen to our friends from the skies. And I'm going to give you a prophetic message from ET, and this was done in 2001. I thought I would include it. Okay, so here we go again. Look at that. Am I going black again? Oh my
Yeah.
gosh. Okay, one second. Let me
It's
get back
okay.
there.
We can still see the chainmail.
Can you?
Yeah.
Can you see it? Yeah, good. Because
The background looks great.
I'm just
It's lit up, so it looks good.
All right, here we go. Gosh darn it. Okay. An alien abduction with a dire message or dire messages. On a clear night, December 26, 2001, 61-year-old retired carpenter Jerry Battles, he's from Ireland, was walking home one night and he had an encounter with extraterrestrials. He claims that he was told when the world will end and how. He saw a bright light, and within a flash, he was in the North Pole. He noted that there were 40 other people on the craft with him, all in a subdued state, all standing together motionless. He truly believes that humanity will indeed be wiped off the face of the planet, much like the dinosaurs were. So, to quote the messages, in 850 years from now, a giant asteroid is going to obliterate your planet. It will be the size of Munster, which is, of course, another meteorite or asteroid. It will approach your planet from then 35th or the 35th quadrant. Dolly, you can chime in. They went on to state, we are 4 million light years more advanced than you are and have been observing you all for millennia. They continued, in all that time, your planet has excelled in two things: global warfare and lying to your own species. You must use the force, be one with it, and harness it. He was also told not to trust the government and the banks, as they have been lying to the people since the beginning of conception. So I don't know. It's like, I think that maybe um people are getting messages. Is it just that this isn't the first ET message that has come forward? Preston writes about all kinds of them, and Dolly talks about all kinds of them. A lot of experiencers and contactees talk about messages that they've been giving. So why is it like, what are we missing? Are we just not listening?
The Giza, you know a lot about, right?
Hmm?
The end of days,
Yeah.
with Giza. I didn't know that there was an astronomer from Astronomer Royal. I guess that's a huge title there for
Mhm.
Scotland. That
Right.
became convinced that the Great Pyramid of Giza had been built not by the Egyptians, but by an Old Testament patriarch under divine guidance. That's the first time I've ever read something like that. He
Hmm.
saw theological implications such as a calculation for the end of days. Is that in the symbolism on the inside of Giza?
I've been in the inside
Yeah.
there. I don't, but I could tell you that the pyramid was never used, that a body, the king, never ever was interred there at all or entombed there. So it's essentially, I think, a power source of some
I
sort.
believe that as
There,
well.
there, there is a sarcophagus there. There's nothing in it. There was
No,
nothing ever put in it. Um, but
they
I
say
can
there's
also
something in
tell
the
you
point, the tip.
there are all kinds of tombs throughout. Seti the first being the first that has hieroglyphs that show technologies, including UFOs and crafts, that in the 70s, the Russians were tipped off by somebody in Egypt of a tomb that had a very tall, what looked like a tall white.
Mm-hmm.
He was buried as a pharaoh, full headgear, everything, very tall, because there's photographs and allegedly there's video footage of Russian troops taking this body out of a tomb in Egypt. So we know they were there for sure. For sure. Okay, Dolly's chiming in. Hold on, Dolly. I'm getting to you here.
Hope you're having fun,
Uh,
Samantha. Sorry, caught my niece there.
Hi, Samantha. Okay. After what we're facing right now, there will be a time in around 800 years for humans here, then that will face permanent end here on this planet. Kind of frightening. All right. In 12,000 years, our sun micronovas, or every 12,000 years, sorry, our sun micronovas. But there is an asteroid heading our way now.
And what is that asteroid called? And do I still have time? Because Dolly, I'm not going to sleep tonight.
Yeah, Dolly. She's not going to
Hi,
sleep tonight.
Tamara.
She
Yeah.
won't. She won't. Okay, we're glitching here for messages. Hold on.
Wow.
Okay.
Yeah.
I was just discussing ancient Egypt and who really built the pyramids. Yes. Um. Okay, hold on. It's got to get to
Because they're talking amongst each other as well. And my niece is at Jellystone
Okay.
Park. Look up at the sky, Samantha, when you're outside at night.
Oh, Tamara's back. Hello,
Yes.
Tamara.
Hello, Tamara.
Hello. So, Dolly, do you have the name of that? Do you have the name of that asteroid perchance? Sorry, we're shaving our kitty cat. Oh my word. That must have been an adventure right there.
Oh,
And
God. How many
remember
band-aids?
the panic in America? Yes, when Orson Welles did a radio broadcast to say
Mhm.
the Martians had invaded Earth. Oh my
Was that
God.
in the 60s or the 70s?
It had to have been the 60s.
Then I wouldn't
would
remember
think.
it.
I know. No.
No, I
Okay,
wouldn't
so
remember it. I thought it was the 70s. I remember my brothers talking about it because they loved Orson Welles. And who wouldn't be afraid and take truth in what he said, especially being who he
yeah.
was, right?
Yeah.
Oh,
I
wow.
don't know. Orson Welles had it he had it down pat, let me tell you. Depends on those who see it. E.T. calls it gall.
Do they have sightings over Jellystone Park, Dolly? My niece is there with her kids and her cousins. I wonder if they could go out and see in the stars if they'll see anything.
So, if an asteroid is coming, do they have
Police
like
fighting.
an ETA on that? Just saying.
Yeah, ETA name,
Yeah.
a
I don't
way I
know.
can, deny it.
Well, I mean,
Um,
I thought Gaul was in France. It is. It absolutely is. Okay, so we get into that. Now let's come into the seven seals of the apocalypse according to the book of Revelations. Okay, this is what Amelia was talking about. The first seal, conquest, which is the white horse. Second seal, war, red horse.
yours is different than mine.
Third
Okay.
seal, famine, the black horse. Fourth seal, death, which is a green or pale horse. The fifth seal, vision of the martyrs. The opening of the fifth seal is followed by a vision of those that were slain for the word of God. The sixth seal, well, these aren't necessarily horsemen. This is just the different seals, right? There's seven
they
seals.
have them too. Yeah.
Earthquake and the marking of the 144,000. When the sixth seal is opened, there is a great earthquake and signs appear in heaven. This is the Revelation 6:12, 6:14. Also, 144,000 servants of God are sealed in their foreheads in Revelation 7, according to research. If this happens, it will be on December 21st to the 23rd of the year 2012. Well, we know that didn't happen. Seventh seal, trumpets of angels and the end of the world. When the seventh seal is opened, seven angels or trumpets begin to sound one by one. The events of the seventh seal are further subdivided by the events following each angel sounding the trumpet. This seal is opened in Revelations 8, and the seventh angel does not sound until Revelation 11. So again, this is the religious part of things that they're talking about. They're not, this is not so much the word. I mean, it is to some people, but as we can see, 2012 came and went by like a decade at least plus. The new telescope in space is looking. They have not found it yet. It's moving fast. Oh, wow. If it's supposed to be something that can take out the planet, you'd think it would be somewhat easy to locate, but I don't know. There's so much with that.
I had the death, famine, and flooding
Right.
with my dreams, but and then we had the floods that were going on.
Yeah. No ETs. Only back engineer craft right now. Yeah.
Okay.
Yes. So Dolly, I mean, if ET's coming and giving these messages out, how are they reaching people if they're not flying?
Telepathically, how far does that go? Could that happen from anywhere?
I have to ask because, we work with a lot of people and some of them swear they've got stuff going on. Space is full of stuff. Yes. Including electromagnetic dust. Yes. Absolutely.
Can I tell this story? It's
Yes,
how
do it.
faith interferes with it. Well, not interferes, but how they can use faith to change things around. The Seekers, December 24th, 1955.
Right.
In 54, a headline in Chicago Tribune read, "Doctor warns of disasters in the world on Tuesday. Worst to come in 1955," he declares. The Dr. Charles Locklead was a follower of Dorothy Martin, a 54-year-old housewife from Oak Park, Illinois. Martin believed that aliens from the planet Clarion, never heard of that, but anyways, had beamed down messages informing her that a massive flood would soon destroy the planet. Her wild prophecies attracted a small group of followers known as the Seekers, many of whom had quit their jobs, sold their belongings. This is 1955. In anticipation of the end, they gathered at Martin's home on Christmas Eve, 1955, singing Christmas carols while they waited to be saved by the aliens in their flying saucers. As the night wore on, Martin's followers became increasingly impatient. Finally, at 4:45 a.m. on Christmas Day, Martin announced that God had been so impressed by their actions that he would no longer destroy the earth.
Hmm.
I have nothing. You
Hmm.
know, the side note here is that almost as interesting as the prophecy itself, the small group of psychologists and students organized by University of Minnesota social psychologist Leon Festinger infiltrated the seekers in an effort to study and better understand apocalyptic cults. Festinger revealed his findings in the book in 1956 when Prophecy Fails, a social and psychological study of a modern group that predicted the destruction of the world. Just saying.
Let's see. So
This stuff is still going on. I know 55 sounds like a long time ago, but it's still going on.
oh, I mean, it does. This goes on. I mean, this has been going on for like ages and ages and ages. Let's talk about, there's this whole Zoroaster, a Persian prophet. So this goes back to the 5th century BC. He was believed to have been born 628 BC, passed around 550 BC.
Wow.
It's a religion.
Long,
And
long time ago.
yeah, and
Wow.
he lived in what would now be considered Iran, Afghanistan. But the religion was said to be the very first faith which focused on one God. He foresaw that the end of the world would come in a form of a comet named, I don't know if I can pronounce this. So it's Gocihr. So again, Gocihr. And it would strike the earth and burn up the world. He claimed that the wicked would suffer in the river of molten lava, while to the righteous the same river would feel like warm milk. The prophecy mirrors the scriptural signs in Revelations 8:9, where a huge mountain all ablaze would fall into the sea, and a third of the sea would turn to blood, and a third of the living creatures in the sea would die, and a third of the ships would be
Wow.
destroyed. So this goes back again like a really long time, and then you can get into Ragnarok, and I mean, there's prophecies. They've been
Ragnarok
talking about
isn't
this for
just about
ages.
Thor.
What?
What?
Yeah. So Thor, I
Well,
don't know.
speaking
But
speaking pop culture, if you want to watch something that is not so dark about the four horsemen and the apocalypse, watch X-Men. The Apocalypse. The film is basically a telling of the four horsemen in a Marvel way. But anyways, that's my
Yeah.
pop culture moment. I've used it up. We're done.
Okay. Wormwood, is that what you're trying to say?
Revelations Wormwood.
Wormwood. This is right. Yeah.
Okay.
So,
Yes. There's so many cults that were using anything that they could think of to gather everyone
Yeah.
together, like William Miller, which 1843 to 1844, isn't that just an inch before all of the spiritualists coming in after?
Well,
This was
yeah, I mean, the spiritualist movement came in around, the late 1800s.
late, so this is right before that. In
Mhm.
1843 to 1844, William Miller was a product of the Second Great Awakening, a period of intense religious revival from which several modern denominations were born, including the Mormons and the Seventh-day Adventists. He was a farmer turned preacher, and he put this together using mathematical calculations.
Well, everything is about mathematics, technically, right?
Yeah, I can't believe how often it happened, because of course we didn't have the internet then, and
No.
people were in small towns, and you just didn't really know.
But, it is just interesting to me though how comets keep coming up and and here we are, like Dolly's saying, that they're looking for this asteroid.
Yeah.
Hildegard von Bingen, if that's right, is a 12th century nun. And even though she wasn't well known for predictions, she had many. One in particular, and this is interesting because remember, this is a 12th century, guys, had to do with the destruction of the United States. And again, here it is, the comet reference. Before the comet comes, many nations, the good accepted, will be scoured with want and famine. The great nation in the ocean that is inhabited by people of different tribes and descent by any earthquake, storm, tidal waves will be devastated. It will be divided, and a great part of it will be submerged. The nation will also have many misfortunes at sea and lose its colonies in the east through a tiger and a lion. Ah, we know who that is. The comet, by its tremendous pressure, will force much of the ocean and flood many countries, causing much want and many plagues. After the great comet, the great nation will be devastated by earthquake and storms and great waves of water, causing much want and plagues. The ocean will also flood many other countries, and that all coastal cities will live in fear, with many destroyed. All sea coast cities will be fearful, and many of them will be destroyed by tidal waves. Most living creatures will be killed, and even those who escape will die from horrible disease. She also predicted that peace would return to Earth when the French throne is restored. Very interesting when you consider that it had not been destroyed at the time that she actually made that specific prediction. So I don't know.
It's a lot.
Chris, I know it is a lot. It's
It's a
crazy.
lot.
I know.
It's just too much to fit.
Um,
The biggest, I was looking to see when there was the most with the prophecies and the apocalyptic dreams, and it was during the Renaissance because a lot of them painted it.
Right.
And I found that really interesting because you wonder what kind of experiences did they have with ET that
Right.
they put these into their paintings,
Right.
and
right.
what did they think they were?
Yeah.
Who did they think they were?
We can get back into all kinds of that stuff. It goes back into
Yeah.
ancient times also.
Right.
Dolly says we'll just go T Atlas is on its way, because I can't pronounce that, is on its way into the inner solar system and already grabbing headlines as the next possible daytime comet. Okay.
Didn't they think that Halley's Comet was going to tear the world in half?
At one point, yeah, it's been around a few times too. Who are the tiger and the lion? I would say that would be China and Russia.
Yeah.
Is
Their tails are tied.
right?
Yeah.
Ron
They
said,
share a huge border. Think about it.
Yes, exactly.
They're both pushing forward for power. When you
Armag-
have a lot of money, what do?
War
You-
makes money.
You look for power because you already have all the money.
Armageddon to me means the world will be destroyed by global nuclear war. You never know.
That's a lot of people's perception, Ron. You're very much with a lot of people who don't
Yeah.
they don't believe in paranormal or aliens. A lot of people believe Armageddon is that.
Victoria, hello Victoria. As a
Hi,
human,
Victoria.
as a spirit in a human body, I always say it. We're having a human experience. I find those kind of horrible death predictions don't bother me. No, and that's just it. How much of that, is mindset is causing fear? Just
war lowers population.
Right. It does.
Sorry.
It
yes.
does. It
Do you
does.
know what else it
Absolutely.
does? It increases missing children.
That does a lot of that.
Think about it.
Yep.
It increases missing children. There's a lot of orphan children who are just wandering around after a blast. And I am not kidding you. As somebody who's worked in child trafficking, they come in and take them, like take them by the hundreds.
Yeah, it's sad.
And babies and up. And that's another show.
That's another show, not this one.
That's another show. No, I don't mean in the trafficking. I meant in the cultist practice. Yes.
Preston. Preston's going to be coming on soon too.
Yay.
Just saying.
Yeah.
Some say the world will end in fire. Some say in ice. From what I've learned of desire, I hold with those who favor fire.
What? We're
but
waiting for it because they only let you type so many letters.
I know.
We're gonna have to
Stupid
have a
thing. My
talk with
favorite
them.
poem, he says. Yeah.
Oh,
Yeah. Yeah. Some
oh
serious.
yes. Love her. Love Emily Dickinson.
Yeah. If I had to perish twice, I think I know enough of hate to say that for destruction of ice is just as great and would suffice. Emily Dickinson. Yep. I love it.
No, it's not just you, Chris. Preston's a cutie.
Yeah. Chris is on a roll tonight. Gotta hide Bubbles and Preston. Kidding, Chris.
Me.
We love playing with you. Let
Why
me
do I
see
have
here
to
when
hide?
I'm
Okay.
Preston is back on. Hold on.
Soon.
It is soon. I'm just gonna look because he's right
Oh,
over
please
here.
tell me I have it.
Preston is on September 7th, and Preston is on again on November 29th.
Just in time for
Double
back to
whammy,
school.
Preston. I know.
Yes.
I know. Knights. The government has a bomb that can destroy all life in a city, but leave the infrastructure intact. 100%. Ah. And
Such
Dollar
a sweetie.
says, yes, he is a cutie.
Yes, he is.
Oh, gosh.
He belongs to
we're ribbing you,
someone.
Chris, because
Hi,
you're like
Tom.
family, and that's what we do.
Tom now lives in Ontario, so he's like with us in real time.
I know. Here we
Hi,
go.
Tom. Yeah.
Ancient civilization was destroyed by a meteor strike approximately 25,000 years ago. Flooding and ice age followed. The pyramids hold proof of such catastrophe. History needs to be rewritten. Ooh. We don't think that'll happen because I think they're spending too much time trying to erase it. Let alone
I understand what
rewriting it.
he means, though.
Yes,
because I feel
understand.
like you look back and you see it repeating.
Yes.
Yeah.
But that's just it. It repeats itself.
He's in Ontario now. Sorry.
You know, so I think to myself, wow, you can't really. I mean, if we're going to keep erasing history, how does it not repeat itself?
Well, thankfully,
I have
we're
to
still
learn.
here because our generation studied it. So thankfully, we're still here. Just keep telling the stories. I know they're going to get twisted, but
Yeah,
better
I know.
something than nothing.
I know.
Oh, good
I know.
night. Thanks,
Night,
Paranormal
Cat.
Heart Podcast.
I know. Well, I mean, if we're sitting there, you're looking at people who, God-fearing people, every 12,000 years. Yes.
Yes.
Yes. Yes. Ice Age. We're nearing it, right? But I mean, there are God-fearing people who really take a lot of this beyond serious,
Yeah.
and maybe it's just where we have to question where the sources come from, right? Okay, so there.
Well, yeah, and there's even a question of have the four horsemen already come?
Well, Christ made a prediction of his own. He's made many, actually, and some of them were about end days. So here we go. He has predicted the temple of Jerusalem would fall, and it did. He predicted that he would die and rise again and become the savior of humanity. The harvest is the end of the age, and the reapers are the angels. As therefore the tares are gathered and burned in the fire, so shall it be in the end of this age. The Son of Man shall send forth his angels, and they shall gather out his kingdom of things they offend, and them who do iniquity, and shall cast them into a furnace of fire. There shall be wailing and gnashing of teeth. Then shall the righteous shine forth as the son of the kingdom of their Father. Who hath ears to hear, let him hear. This is Matthew 13, 39, 43. It is clear from these two parables that whatever we have come to believe concerning the rapture, it must at least include the following initial characteristics. 1, it will occur at the end of the age. 2, the ones who will accomplish the gathering are angels directed by Christ. 3, the event will separate the wicked from the righteous, where the wicked will be punished and the followers of Jesus blessed. So again, this is the religious for the Christian. And then, of course, you're getting interested. You have to get into, the every religion has its own story, and it would be very difficult to get them all. But the ones that I think I follow the most, or to me have a deeper meaning, and again, guys, don't shoot the messenger, but no, seriously. But Preston was talking about the Hopi.
Yes.
This is something that their elders and the Apache, the indigenous people of all lands, have had oral history that it's not all written. The Hopi have theirs written, but a lot of it's just oral history that has been passed down for centuries.
Yes.
And they have watched events unfold.
Yes.
These events have unfolded.
Yes. And notice they don't try to erase anything from the
No.
past. They never
No.
do. No matter how horrific it's been for them. They
I
still
know.
speak of it because they give respect to that era and their people.
Yeah.
That's something to think about when you're trying to erase a historical event because you don't agree with it.
I know. I'm just, I know. But I think a lot of this for me is a lot of these religions. Like, we went over the differences between, Armageddon and the apocalypse. But I think the one we hear about the most just seems to be more about the apocalyptic stuff,
Mm-hmm.
So but two apocalypses. So I didn't realize there were two of them. So if this is the reading of the events that lead to the end of the world, religion seems to be the big one. And then you're getting into secular. So it's like, okay, so how do you do anything about it? If the powers that be, look at where we're heading. War. Everybody's fighting. The whole world just seems to be war.
Our food
War.
chain is halted as well.
Yeah.
There's a disruption, which goes with one of the four horsemen, is famine.
Mm-hmm.
I read that historians often point to the 14th century as a time that, I'm reading it actually right now, that echoed several of these I can't even say it. I need coffee and I need Folgers, and that's coming up soon.
Oh, you can
Apocalyptic
do that
events.
Yeah.
The Crusades echoed the conquest of the first rider. A great many wars broke out, such as the 100 Years' War, and famine and death overtook the land because of the bubonic plague and the Great Famine of 1315 to 1317. And just to echo Michelle, nevertheless, history does have a way of repeating itself, even if the events that transpired in the past reflected those in Revelation. We have yet to experience these again.
Right.
Perspective.
All perspective, misinterpretation, yes. A lot of that. Ron says it's Yellowstone National Park that he read. If a geyser there blows, it will be the end of the world. They say if that sucker goes,
we're all gone.
Yeah,
that thing's massive.
You're not wrong on that at all.
I don't know if it craters the entire side of this hemisphere, and that's why. Because I know it would take out the entire North America, of course. So Mexico, U.S., Canada, gone.
There we go.
Yeah.
Dolly says humanity has been separated from knowing they are able to connect with to what AT calls the all mind. Knowing truth means connecting to your consciousness. Exactly. We have been dumbed down, shall we say, and a lot of that has been taken from us. But the great thing about it is you can get it back. You really can.
Yeah, don't eat plant-based food, just saying.
You have to open your mind to it. And again, I think we've just been conditioned to be so fearful that a lot of people don't want to try. Tamara, putting our views in a different era is a presumption of their view, not reality. You are rereading an actual event or time period of robbing future generations of a true view of history. 100%.
Agreed.
Yes, exactly. Yeah. We're a violent species. Yes.
Yes,
we are.
Yeah.
Ancient tribes' histories are not based on man trying to control man. Religions are arguably distortions to control the masses. Oh, yes. Yes.
Agreed.
Yes.
Tom's very spiritual. Yeah,
Yes.
totally
There's a
agree.
big difference between, I think, spirituality, and a lot of people mix the two up. No, I believe spirituality is very, very different, and it's not one specific religion. It's just knowing in the creator. It's just knowing in the all, knowing that there's something more, knowing in yourself, feeling it within yourself, being the best person you can be. There's so much more to it. It's not having to be part of an institution and paying money out to that institution, just to be faithful. It's just but I mean, there's a lot of different, outlooks on that. That's just mine.
Yeah,
I'm
I
just
think
speaking for me. Nothing, no one more. Just me. Little
you
me.
have to be careful when someone catches your interest about
Yeah.
speaking of I can't even talk. Oh my god.
Blah blah blah
The
blah blah blah.
apocalypse and
Yeah, right.
speaking about end
Right.
days and four horsemen and all this
Yes.
other stuff.
Yes.
Look to the source and see. Always ask yourself, what does this person have to gain? Speaking that
Well,
way. That is one way of looking, because there are a lot of frauds, but don't be afraid of listening and hearing someone out and their opinions, their views, or their research. Some people who write and speak about the apocalypse have studied their entire lives, and they deserve that kind of time that you do open up your mind and open up yourself to listen. But there is a history of frauds, tons and tons and tons of them, and even in our times right now. So just be careful. Yes, I like what Dolly said. Know all that is knowable. Yes.
Keep learning. That's the key,
Yeah.
Thank you, Tom. I only speak with me, that way I don't get in any trouble. Preston says, according to Hopi prophecy, this is not the first time Earth has gone through Armageddon or apocalypse. This has happened before. Yes, I completely agree. I completely believe that. I mean, you just look at out of place artifacts. Look at all these, I guess, these locations that are opening up and surfacing. The earth is giving up her secrets. And there have been people here hundreds of millions of years ago. Yes, exactly. There have been that long. Do the research. It's there. If we as a collective create a reality, then Jesus is real because we created him. I'm good with that. More people believe in him than don't. 100%. Whatever makes you feel strong, whatever gives you strength, I say go for it. I
believe in Jesus.
Of course.
Yeah.
So, I mean, for me, I'm going to try to do this again. Bring this thing over. It's just a thorn in my rear end.
It's okay. We were only 2 months away from spooky month.
God, okay, I'm going to read. I'm going to read some of this off because it does include extraterrestrials and things like that. But it also sees how it's easy to misinterpret things, or we just don't know how to read it right. So Ursula Southdale, aka Mother Shipton, existed 1488-1561, was believed to have been one of the best prophetesses on a large list of seers of our time. Her most interesting prophecies were for the future. And these are quotes. So, for storms will rage and oceans roar when Gabriel stands on sea and shore, blows his wondrous horn, old worlds die and new be born. The last trumpet is a biblical revelation, destruction of the civilization, creation of a new one, the so-called end of the world. A fiery dragon will cross. You'll see where I'm going with this. The fiery dragon will cross 6 times before the earth shall die. Mankind will tremble and frightened before the 6 heralds of this prophecy, which is an appearance of series of 6 comets. See how they're mixing the biblical and some of the more logical. The appearance of 6 comets and probable collision with Earth, as indicated, of course, by Nostradamus, the Bible, etc., etc. In the last 20 years alone, we have seen at least 4 spectacular comets, fiery dragons, as she would have known them. Halley's, for example, Kahutek, a bit of a dud. Huyakutake, and Haley Bop. But
what she said.
Yeah, whatever. But it appears that she was referring to a single object that grazes the atmosphere before a collision, like a near asteroid miss. We had, this was like, in our time,
Yeah.
looping around us 6 times over 7 days before a collision with the Earth. Then she goes on to say, for 7 days and 7 nights, man will watch this awesome sight. The tides will rise beyond their ken to bite away the shores, and the mountains will begin to roar, and earthquakes split the plain to shore. So after the asteroid allegedly hits the oceans, huge tidal waves will strike, followed by the awakening of volcanoes and earthquakes. Then she says, when the dragon's tail is gone, man forgets and smiles and carries on. To apply himself too late for mankind has earned deserved fate. So war and natural disasters will abate for a brief period of time after this dragon's tail of a comet or asteroid disappears from the heavens. Peace will seemingly return, but man's fate is already sealed. Then she says, and in some far off distant land, some men, oh, such a tiny band, will have to leave their solid mount and span the earth for those few to count. Survivors coming out of their hiding places underground, the dead will come out of their graves, is how the Bible put it. Who survives this unreadable and then begin the human race again, but not on land already there, but on ocean beds stark, dry, and bare. Survivors allegedly will start a new civilization, not on land which is poised due to war and nuclear radiation, but lands rising out of the sea after the Great Tribulation. So the land that rises will be dry and clean. So she goes on, but essentially, because I could be on here all night, the land will rise from the sea and clean and free. All of this new civilization will get started. The arrival, here's where I was going. She says that the race will build anew. A silver serpent comes to view and spew of men like who are unknown to us. So the arrival of extraterrestrials in their ships who will enlighten the men starting this new civilization. Children will be gifted with special mental powers, which begins or becomes a naturally occurring phenomenon. Then the golden age of man will begin again. So, you know what I mean? Like, and of course, with this prophecy, there's a lot of people who look at this and say, well, this is blasphemy. Why? Because she mentioned a extraterrestrial? I don't know. Preston says 1803 huge meteor shower with shooting stars coming at the rate of 20 per second in Richmond, Virginia. Thick as snow, they thought it was the end of the world. Right? I could see that.
I'd be worried too if I saw something like that.
I know. My father told me there was a warrior, that we were a warrior species. And if we make it, then we will protect, or we will be a protect, or if not, we will destroy ourselves. So, yeah, we're going to take a quick break on that. But, this is what I'm saying. Watch the playlist. You'll know then. Yeah. I think, when you read how she worded her prophecy, and then how they interpreted it, and how they did the full interpretation, you can just see, the dragon's tail, the tail of a comet, flies around the earth, like how they would have seen things. They wrote things and told things how it made sense to them in their time. It's up to us now to kind of say, okay, is this a thing? Is this not a thing? But let's do a quick station ID and a break.
No kidding. If I was still a smoker, I'd be jumping out for a cigarette right now, but I haven't been one in 4 years. Wait, no, 2021, 22, 20. Yeah, I'm proud. Just saying, I'm proud. Don't miss it. Okay, and I've got something I'd like to come back to that is in present day. I think you've talked about it before, Michelle, so it'd be really cool. You are listening to The Outer Realm with Michelle Desrochers and Amelia Pisano, coming to you live from the beautiful city of New Orleans on 105.3 and 107.7 FM radio, as well as the Roku channel right now. So if you're joining us from Roku, welcome. If this is your first time, we're so excited you're here. We hope you come back, and please don't forget to share us with your friends and family. if you like them.
If you like, if you don't, well,
If you don't worry. But you can still slip them a text. It's good.
Yeah.
No guests tonight. Our audience is the guest. Michelle and I are discussing Armageddon, apocalyptic times, and end days. The Four Horsemen. I swear it's a lot more uplifting than it sounds, and it's been really interesting. It sounds like doomsday, doesn't it? That's what we're talking about. If you're just tuning in, no worries. You can stream our archives on any platform you normally use. Remember to click like and subscribe so you don't miss an episode. Don't forget to share us with your friends and family. Again, even if you don't like them. Just saying. To the wonderful, I need to lighten this conversation up. That's what I do. That's why I make jokes. To the wonderful people at Folgers Coffee for your continued support and sponsoring our show. We deeply appreciate you and we thank you so much for our fabulous banner and promo media. Thank you to Steve McGinnis, horror illustrator. Fantastic artist. Steve creates commission pieces as well, and he can be found on Facebook and Instagram. He also, although he specializes in the horror genre, he does everything. He's an artist. Loving our intro and outro because we do. Thank you to Dr. Snick, the sonic surgeon, Justin Snicker, award-winning composer, vocalist, and musician. You can find his music on Amazon and Bandcamp and stream him on any platform that you normally use. You can also find Dr. Snick on Facebook and Instagram. Now, this is the part that not everybody likes, but if you're watching us on Facebook Live, I feel like a mom or a teacher when I do this. If you're watching us on Facebook Live or you're watching us on YouTube right now, please hit the like button and the subscribe. We appreciate your support. We love having you here, and it wouldn't be the same without you. And share. Thank you, Tamara.
It's all about you guys. It's
Yeah.
all about you guys. We try to interact as much as possible. These are the nights where we get to, which is really fantastic. We can't always interact as much as we would like to when we have a guest on, and you know, it's
These are
about
my
the guest
favorite
at that
shows.
point. I know. Dolly, we have been under CMEs and proton showers lately. Yes, may explain why all the electronics have just been acting up, cell phones and
I
internet.
thought that was just me.
No, not just you. No, it's happening. It's happening.
I have a habit of
You know,
breaking things. Just saying.
I know. It's not fun. So with that being said, I always forget. Oh, well, that's why we're here, Chris, to
Remind you.
I know,
And if we
I know.
don't, Tamara will.
Tamara will. Mind you, Tamara's over on we'll just have to put it up. She's over on Facebook.
Yeah.
So I think this was a lot. I mean, it shouldn't be a lot of fun, but I really thought that this segment was a lot of fun. And I think that we should look at moving forward. I mean, there's going to be all kinds of new prophecies coming up or predictions, and it will be interesting to see where we are all at in a year from now, because a lot of people, and this is really strange, because after everything went on, the world shut down for a good year, and it took another year to just kind of get back on track.
Oh my God, what are we?
Do you know how many people that have I've heard, and I mean, and I don't really talk to a lot of people. I don't really have a lot. I don't get online a whole lot, but where they've said like, like these amazing times are coming. I'm like,
what?
I know. I've heard
Really?
that things will be better and they're going to be just phenomenal. And I'm like, wow, okay. So I'm sort of like, that's interesting. So I don't know. It to me, it's really interesting, but what does it mean exactly? Because other people, like, Dolly here being one of them, save non-perishable food, water, meds, eats, grow gardens, live happy lives.
I've been canning what I call jarring in Italian, bucacci, just because it makes me feel good. You don't have to grow the food. You could go to a farmer and buy it, support the farmers. But if you want to grow and you have a green thumb and you have better weather than Michelle and I have here in Ontario, you go for it, because it's always raining here. Everything is like filled with water. But I am really enjoying it. I even did my own jalapeno peppers a few weeks ago, and it's so simple and so easy, and it's nostalgic for me. It brings me back to growing up. Everything was canned and jarred. I mean, everything.
Right.
You know, there wasn't a fruit tree that didn't go into a jar or jam or anything like that. So it's a great way to live.
So maybe that's where everybody should chime in. So let's say there is this gloom and doom coming up here. I can attest to that. When I was in Scotland, it rained quite a bit.
Yeah. I think when I finally make it to Scotland, I'm going to have a portable hair straightener for all the frizz and just keep.
Oh, yeah. Oh, yeah. Marge, I held up okay. So I guess, you know, what Dolly is saying, like, I don't know, Dolly, like everything you're talking about, because you and I have talked about this a lot. Okay. But just, you know, for the sake of the show, what timeline do you have? What timeline did ET sort of give you? And then we can talk about maybe, you know, preparation. So, okay, hold on. And Amelia, I think I said this before, but my mother, she did.
Yes, when I said that they put copper wire on a stick with an antenna, and she was getting bumper crops, and she had never grown vegetables before. We have food shortages now too, Tom. You just stepped into Ontario, give it a chance. You will go into the grocery stores and there are a lot of stuff missing. There's a lot of stuff.
How we say also that some of the fruits and vegetables look sad or very angry. It don't look,
I've noticed it doesn't taste the same. And I think you need to be concerned about these really big companies. I won't name names because I know we'll get pulled. You have to be concerned about large companies that are manufacturing food and telling you it's better for you, like a plant-based. Really do your research, because some of these people that are creating this don't actually eat it. That should be a red flag right there. Right. That's all I'm going to say. You can go Google search that.
Right.
It's a big story right now.
Right.
But anyways, just be careful.
Yeah.
Price hikes. Yes. Ontario. You're in Ontario, honey. It's not BC anymore. Yeah. Price hikes. It's the most expensive province to live in.
It sure has turned out to be that's for sure. You know? So, so with that being said, I think we've really talked a lot about, and this all started because of her dreams, just so you know.
I don't remember the entire dream. I just know that week was crazy. What happened that week to both of us. Right. We went through a lot of spiritual, I want to say some kind of warfare thing, but it that happens when you work in the light and you try to make things better. You often have a target on your back, but thank God I have Michelle. But I want to say, on a light note, think of the Jetsons and how accurate they were. That's just because, I always go back to pop culture because I love movies and film. But think of the Jetsons, other than flying cars, which we probably could do, but they're stopping us from doing it because they want everybody.
Well, they're starting now.
Yeah, well, they really want you to buy an electric car, but they keep charging $120,000 for them. So it's a little
but they're saying now it costs us as much to charge a car as it is to fill a gas tank.
That's a whole other show too, because you can go into the mining and everything else of it. Yeah. But and it is hurting the earth as well.
Yeah.
So I don't care if you drive electric or drive gas. Just don't tell me what to do. It's the same with eating meat. It's the same kind of thing. Just don't tell me. I don't need the unsolicited advice. Right. But Michelle knows how I feel about that one. But look at the Jetsons. Zoom calls.
That's true.
She pushes a button, she orders food. I mean, you can go anywhere in China and Japan, and they actually will make from pizza to sushi, and everything's made by a robot and comes right out. That's not far from the
Okay.
Jetsons.
So that brings us into maybe a different type of apocalyptic conversation.
Yes.
AI, everybody chime in.
Ooh,
What
okay,
about
now
AI?
it just went dark again.
Well, we're talking
was so
robots. You
enlightened until
brought
I
up Jetsons and freaking robots.
had my stupid dream. My stupid dream.
I know. But what about
I agree, Tom.
what about AI?
Oh,
Right?
I didn't even think about that because I'm just looking at the
I know.
internet. She's buying online. She's doing her groceries. So this is long before the internet was even like it wasn't even conceived yet, unless it was, and no one really knows.
Right.
Oh my God, I'm gonna not sleep tonight.
I know. See, Dolly and I have talked about this as well.
What do you mean by AI knows you already? Dolly, I am going to phone you
AI.
until you answer the phone, and you're going to stay up with me all
AI is scary.
night.
It's
Yes,
scary.
Tamara.
No, Dolly and I've talked about this, and
It doesn't make it less scary.
you have to think Antarctica and leave it there. But they're think Matrix. Maybe we've got to talk about, like, Joe and I did a show on the Matrix too, and holy hell, you want to talk some similarities? You want to talk how they pulled from ancient religions and belief systems and cultures, and boy, you guys got to go Google that stuff and then come back and say, wow, you'll have to wait till that Gray Zone show comes up, because that took me about 30 hours to research for that show.
Wow. Tom, I love that Tom says Hawking's predicted AI is the end of mankind, because you know what I'm finding? Hawking is slowly disappearing from conversation. Have you noticed that? It's a little convenient, isn't it?
Isn't it kind of like the Mandela effect?
Right? All of a sudden, thank you for bringing that up, Tom, because now it will be archived infinitely.
Yeah, but is he a wolf in sheep's clothing? I'll leave that right there without even reading out that comment. The spiritual battle is real. It's going on. Christ won, defeated Satan. He died on the cross. The rest of the people choosing sides. I know my side.
Did he die?
Again, mindset, like,
but
did he die on the cross? I don't know. Like we're getting into the whole Mandela effect that we did with Bill Bean was really interesting, because there are some things in there where we're like, it's one thing. When did we shift is what I want to know. When did we seriously shift?
Right? Who was our guest that said crucifixion in those days was not you died on the cross? It was a form of discipline and punishment for your crime. So I think that depends. Him dying on the cross depends on what faith you follow, I believe.
Right.
Because Jewish, they don't even believe that he was the Son of God. So that's again another. I believe he was an entirely historical figure. Whether or not he was the Son of God is another story.
Hawking died. Yes. And Hawking also cautioned not just about AI, but he cautioned about meeting ET as well.
Not communicating.
He said, don't communicate.
That's why I love The Big Bang Theory. He was always on it.
You
learn a lot on that show. A lot of those things when AI came online.
So in the 90s. See, I was an 80s kid, man. I love the 80s. My kids think, God, I wish I was lived in the 80s.
My daughter loves the music. I hate the music.
I love the 80s. I
hate the music of the 80s.
Hawking's disappeared. Just a term. His words have disappeared in our current media.
That's exactly. Keep putting it out there, because we're going to bring him back. We should do a show just on Stephen Hawking. Wow. Just to keep him out there. What an incredible man, and all that he did, except for cheating on his wife. We're not going to promote that. But everything that he did, that great mind, and all that he suffered through and just kept pushing through.
But he also cautioned against communicating with ET.
But that's what we have to look further into.
Was it again? Are we dealing with the mindset and the sign of the times? I mean, he rubbed elbows with some pretty
He was on
Up
Epstein's
there,
Island.
people.
Let's
Yeah.
not go there.
But he also, what I'm saying is he also rubbed elbows, and he was also such a great mind that he rubbed elbows with presidents and things like that. You know, why would he come out with such a statement? AI, yes, but yet it doesn't hinder anybody. They don't listen to that great mind. They're like, no, no, no. Let's just fire up this giant and see where that goes,
My
you
God,
know?
he even made it on pop culture. He made it on
I
The Big
know,
Bang Theory,
everything.
several episodes. Imagine the cast. Like what an
Mhm.
honor. I would have loved to have met him. I know who was one of his biggest fans and got to meet him was oh my God, the Star Trek guy from Canada. What's his name? Oof.
William
He played the
Shatner.
captain. Yes. He interviewed
Yeah.
and then Steven asked him to stay for dinner, and he was like a little kid in a candy store. He just couldn't believe it
Mhm.
was so nice to
Mhm.
see that. And I'm sure for Stephen Hawking it was a great big
Oh,
deal
no
to see
doubt.
Captain Kirk in his
For
house
sure.
at his
And
kitchen
it's,
table.
yeah,
Yes.
absolutely. Wayne, I believe that the Mandela effect is created to make us question our reality, starting with small stuff, but gradually moving into bigger topics like the Holocaust, World War II. You're not necessarily wrong with that. Willing to go.
Joe can talk
Yes.
for 2 hours or more on
On
about
anything, but
anything.
if you remember when
Like
we did
even
some of the
food.
gray zones and we talked about Hawking, how he squirreled out on me and ended up in a whole other conversation by
It's a
himself.
matter of keeping Joe under reins. It's not a matter of whether or not he can discuss something for
I
2
know.
hours or more. You can give Joe a paperclip and he'll talk to you about 3 hours on the process of making one and when they were invented. That's not the issue. It's getting them to stay there.
I know. And how many times on that show did
And
you
we
see me
love
go,
them.
shh, come back, Joe.
Yeah.
Come
We
back,
love
Joe.
them.
I'm reeling
I love
you
them
in.
because I
I'm
have the
reeling
same
you in.
disease.
Same
Yeah.
idea, you know. But I mean, realistically, guys, you know, this is something that's been talked about throughout cultures, throughout ancient times. It's always been a topic of conversation. You've had different belief systems. You've had different, um, again, history. I don't see that stopping anytime soon. In fact, I can see that amping up in conversations as we move forward. You know, I think we are going to hit some uncertain times, and that always tends to put fear into people. Not knowing is very fearful. Just not knowing in general is very fearful. So maybe it's time to open ourselves up to, you know, not being afraid. I mean, let's face it. Don't be afraid to communicate with otherworldly beings. You know, I think to myself, Bubbles is like, hell with that crap. But I'm just like,
I just fell off.
I like my ET experiences. I do. I have, and not always
Now,
now, but
now.
I start now that I have memories going back as a kid. I'm just like,
And
you
you
know
know
what?
you're
This is,
safe.
and talking with my like family members and my mom about this before she passed, and I'm just thinking, you know, my grandfather being into, you know, all of his stories, like so many things have come back, and it's like, okay, so maybe it's my not remembering that has created that fear. And then when, you know, little bits and pieces coming back, let's just say slow and steady is where I'm at. I'm not just like, yeah, jump in both feet. Let's just do it. No,
No.
no,
You're not like that with anything.
not with
No,
anything.
very
No,
cautious.
no, exactly. Multiple ancient civilizations throughout history, and we have found the remains. Yes, exactly.
Or
Exactly.
have they ended? Remember the giant thing
Oh, there's some,
out
yeah,
in the
that
Middle East?
could still be
Mhm.
going on. I agree.
Have they ended? We have vast forests and oceans that are not, they haven't been, discovered. They haven't been searched.
That's true.
We don't know what's out there.
Dolly, yes, government's got a fear threat regarding ET. Mysterious stuff, false flag. Wait for the
Yeah.
false flag stuff. Oh,
And-
it's just put your seatbelts on,
Yeah,
people. It's
and
gonna have a
Hollywood
lot of
makes a
fun.
ton of money exploiting those false flags. They make
Yeah.
a ton of money exploiting that. The only the film that I can think of with an alien that was endearing was ET. That's it. The rest of them are scary. And Paul. Paul is hilarious.
Paul was awesome.
Paul, if you guys haven't seen Paul,
Our little pothead alien is great.
yes, and get yourself a pair of Depends.
I know you really have to
because
watch.
you're going to pee yourself
pretty
laughing.
good. Yeah.
Oh,
No,
it was
there
so
was
well
actually
done.
great films. Enemy Mine was another really good one. That was an old one, but wow, powerful. Watch that one.
That one
You
that I
know,
never remember the name of,
it's
where she
excellent.
goes in
Enemy
and
Mine.
she's communicating with the ET and she learns their language.
Yes.
I
Contact.
want to know about the 39 billion.
Pentagon can't find.
You want to know what happened to the 80 billion that we can't find? Just saying.
Other show.
It's probably in the same place.
See,
That's
this is something that we also should explore. There are also doorways to other dimensions. Things are now coming through. Like they said, the veil is thinning. It absolutely just dimensions. I mean, come on. There's dimension upon dimension upon dimension.
Yes,
There's stargates. There are.
Why are they digging that damn tunnel in the core of the earth? I don't understand that. The LHC, why are they doing that?
Why do they do anything?
I'm just trying. They stopped. We talked about it a little bit. They stopped. And then 9 days in, they thought, because that thing went so fast, they thought the earth would collapse. So why did you continue?
I know.
There's no other information.
I know.
But anyways,
I think we're in for a bit of a rough ride, people. And I think that we need to just start just researching as much as possible. Don't take anything at face value. How many times have you heard me say, learn something new every day? Just don't, and cross-reference everything. Cross-reference everything. There's just too much rhetoric out there. CME protection. Just so much, but that's all we can do, because otherwise you will drive yourself crazy just trying to think about a lot of this stuff, and people panicking. And you have people who are in a really, it's been a really rough few years for a lot of people. And you have a lot of people who are suffering from illness, or friends and family suffering from illness, or people passing away. I mean, we've had a great loss. I mean, Amelia lost her dad a couple years ago. I've lost my mother recently. And I can't tell you how many people, I mean, one of the reasons I stay off social media, because so many people have lost people, and it's going to be really, rough, I think, come the holidays this year. And I only say that because we're coming. I mean, I know we're only in August, but it's coming. So make plans. Maybe just, if you have somebody in your area who's alone or who's just grieving, just throw a smile, man. Just helping hands, something.
We can't find a reputable media source because we've been banned from reading anything other than what they want us to see right now. Yeah. Which I just got I got a warning from Meta for Facebook for that.
Were you bad again?
No, they sent a warning stating you will not be able to share or read any news. And I'm not going to say any more on that.
No, we're good. Yeah. It's getting hairy. That's all I've got to say. It's getting hairy, and this show could go for another hour, and then I'd have to switch us off YouTube.
We'd have to go private on that.
I know.
We'll get ripped.
I know. Not that we can't do it. Not that we can't do,
No, it's just it'll take down the entire network. It's not fair.
True.
Yeah.
It's true. But guys, you know what? We're there again. We're at pretty much at the end of another segment, and a whole lot of fun. We love interacting with you guys. I know, Dolly.
That's why we love
whenever
you.
you do that, you have to let me know so I could put your show in private mode.
Oh, you get in trouble a lot for that.
I know.
Dolly.
I know.
I love you. You're just starting. You'll get it. You'll get it. It's amazing what crosses the line.
I know.
It's just keep a list of that in front of you. That's what I try to do. But I know Michelle's look when I say something too.
I was like,
she'll look at me and the eyebrow goes up and I'm like, stop.
I know. I just kind of
Rewind.
go like stone face, like,
Yeah, rewind.
what are you doing? See, we used to have hand signals, but we just kind of lost those. I
Well,
know, I know
because
it's
I
over the eyes.
stretched my hands because I have arthritis, so Michelle doesn't know if I used to do this, meaning I like
I
to
know, I
talk,
know.
and now I'm like doing this all the time. She's like, I don't know what you want.
Okay. Well, I mean,
On Halloween.
for us, it's
I don't
hard
think we're
because
on Halloween.
we're not actually on Halloween,
No, but we
But-
have a great month for you.
but on the last day, the plan is like on the 26th, which is our last show for October, we're thinking about it, but we're going to have a good lineup for October.
Always
but maybe
do.
what we can do, or if we don't do it on the 26th, maybe we'll come in November 1st, which is
That's
Day
what
of
we
the
did
Dead.
last year. That's what we did last
Day
year.
of the Dead. Yeah, we could
There's
do a
more
Q&A
stories
Day of the Dead.
because remember, Halloween is just the eve to the Day of
It's
the
just
Dead.
a day before.
Yes.
So you know what? I think we can all do that. That's just very good. I love it.
Night,
Yeah.
night. Mwah.
Well,
Love you.
There we go, guys. So anyway, we're going to slowly, do our good night. And we appreciate you guys all for tuning in. You make the show so much more fun. And we want to thank Folgers Coffee, who sponsored tonight's show and every night's show. We want to thank Justin Snicker, this Dr. Snick, the sonic surgeon, for his intro and his outro for us. Big thank you to Steve McGinnis, the artist behind all of our banners. If you guys enjoy what you're seeing, wherever you're watching it, please subscribe, share, like it up, follow, whatever the case may be. We appreciate you. If you want to contact us, the Outer Realm Contact at gmail.com. That's the Outer Realm Contact at gmail.com, or go to the Outer Realm Facebook, click email, and we're laughing. Bob's your uncle. You got us. So tomorrow night, for the very first time, we're bringing all the way from the UK, and this guy's a champion. He's staying up late. He's going to do a live show
Just
with
like
us.
Ron.
Woohoo. So Gary Jones, and he's going to be discussing his new book, see if I say this right, The Den by Lights, A Truthful Argument for the Existence of UFOs. Dolly's like, what? I think we do that. Have a nice apocalypse. Thank you,
Thanks, Preston. Can we
Hopefully
come to your
not before
house?
you get back on the show, though.
Let's
'cause
go to
Preston
his
has
house.
a new book, Preston. Write
But
the
we
name of
know-
your book down so we can just flash it up on the
Yeah, we
the
know
screen.
Preston's ready, so let's just go to his house. I'll bring cheese.
I know.
God knows I have
know.
loads of it.
I know. So yeah, so again, it's I dig it. I think that it's going to be great. Tomorrow night's gonna be a good show. You guys have to tune in. So we'll
Yes.
till then, everybody behave. Just know we've got a whole month of a lot of new faces and some of our favorite faces. Oh boy, Chris, I'm not even writing that
We
down.
can't put that up.
I can't put that out. No. Oh my God, you guys are just too much. Anyway, guys, have a good night. Let's see you back in chat tomorrow night and we will resume. Good night.